Hi guys, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the IS-8, the Tier 9 Russian heavy tank. This is one of two Tier 9 Russian heavy tanks in the game. In fact, in this game, I'm platooned with Ram and CJC. Ram is back there in the ST1, CJC is also in an IS-8, but the IS-8 receives a lot of, let's just say, dislike or sometimes even borderline hate. And a lot of it's down to the fact that it's a Tier 9 Russian heavy tank that's probably in competition with this Tier 9 Russian heavy tank, the ST1. You see, the ST1 is very well armored, it's got a great gun, and it fulfills its role as a heavy tank. It's everything you would imagine a Tier 9 heavy tank should be. And, you know, it's quite competitive, even against a tank like the E-75. Whereas the IS-8, if you took an IS-8 up against an E-75, quite often the E-75 is going to come out as a winner. In fact, the IS-8 versus a lot of other Tier 9, Tier 10 heavy tanks really fails to hold up, and it's quite disappointing. I didn't like this tank when I first started playing it, and I then stopped playing it, looked at the stats and figured out what it's good at and what it's bad at. And one of the things that this Tier 9 heavy tank is really bad at is being a heavy tank, because it's kind of suffering from a lack of identity. It's kind of stuck between a medium tank and a heavy tank. It lacks the armor to compete against other Tier 9 heavy tanks or Tier 10 heavy tanks, but it also maybe lacks the speed and mobility to compete against Tier 9 medium tanks, but it's kind of a hybrid between the two. So yeah, I think the IS-8 suffers from a lack of identity, but it's got some problems. Probably the biggest problem the IS-8 has is its armor. Now, when I sat down to do this video, I loaded up Tank Viewer as I usually do, and Tank Viewer isn't working anymore. And then I found out that Tank Viewer is no longer being updated, it's been discontinued, so I had to go look for something else. And what I found was this amazing site called tanks.gg. Tanks.gg. This means that you never have to download anything again. You don't have to put in your World of Tanks information. All the information is here in the browser. You just go to tanks.gg, pick whatever tank you want to look at, and you can get something like this. So let's move this to full screen. There we go. Tanks.gg. I'll put the link below this video. But really good site. Happy I found it. And it does the job of Tank Viewer. So here we go. This is the IS-8, and you can see lots and lots of green areas, lots and lots of yellow areas. That's not normally very good. We've got the lower glacis. Lower glacis is only about 205 millimeters of armor, and it's very big. It's got a very big lower glacis. As a result, a lot of the tanks the IS-8 is going to be facing have more than 205 millimeters of penetration, and they have absolutely no problems going through your lower glacis. You can't really see it that well on this model, but lower glacis is quite big, and it's not very good. You can see that the armor values at some areas is dropping below 200. It's kind of cross between sloped armor and a pike nose. And again, look at the front. I mean, this is a pike nose, but the effective armor frontally is only 195 millimeters. And as I say, most Tier 8s, Tier 9s, and Tier 10 tanks that this tank is going to be facing have more than 200 millimeters of penetration. So even when you're showing your strongest armor, the peak or the beak and the lower glacis are easily pennable. You've got these cheeks that are angled. You can see that they're more effective, but because it's also a pike nose, it means that as soon as you start to angle, if you come around and you've got enemy tanks that shoot at the sides of your beak, yeah, you're down to 158 millimeters, 155. Even the shoulders of the tank, if you come around at an angle, they straighten up, and it's 166. So pretty much any tank that shoots at an IS-8 frontally is going to be able to pen it, even if it decides to go hull down, even if it decides to hide its lower glacis. The actual upper glacis is weaker than the lower glacis is, so you could pen it straight through the front of the pike nose. The armor really isn't heavy tank armor. Oh, I forgot to mention this. You've got the viewport here, the driver's viewport. That's very weak. Look at this. You've only got 124, 106 millimeters of armor at this angle, straight on. Again, you can just shoot. Look, it drops as far low as 64 through the viewport itself. You could shoot an IS-8 frontally, absolutely no problems if you can see any of its hull. The turret armor is actually worse on paper than it is on the IS-3. Yeah, for some reason it gets less frontal hull armor than the turret armor than the IS-3 does. Again, you can see some areas. You can see, oh, it's very effective, very, very bouncy some areas. But again, if you're fighting a player who knows what he's doing, you can see the gun mantlet here is amazing, 400, 500, 700, 800 at some areas. Yeah, but look to this area just to the left of the gun mantlet and just to the right of the gun mantlet. It's flat. So again, any tank that has more than 200 millimeters of penetration, they're just going to shoot you at the side of your gun mantlet because they're going to have absolutely no problems penning the front of your tank that's the thickest armor, and it's only 207 millimeters to either side. I mean, going from 202 to 207 millimeters. This area of the tank is very, very flat, so just to either side of the gun mantlet you're going to pen frontally, even if it manages to hide its hull. Because it's coming from the IS-3, you've also got even though the IS-3's roof armor was buffed, you've only got, looking straight down at it, you've only got 40 millimeters of hull or roof armor. So again, shooting it frontally, let's get down here. It's only about 88 millimeters of effective armor, so you can't hide your roof armor when you go hull down, and enemy tanks who know what they're going to do, or know what they're doing, are just going to pen your roof armor. The armor on the IS-8 is absolutely dreadful. It gets worse. You actually get less side turret armor than you do on the IS-3 a tier lower. It's only 129 millimeters. It is sloped, but that's taking the sloping into consideration. So yeah, you can pen the side of a turret on an IS-8, absolutely no problems. And then the rear of the turret can even be penned by HE, because the rear of the turret is only 50 millimeters of effective armor. The armor on the IS-8 is absolutely terrible, especially if you come across players who know what they're doing. So that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of players don't like the IS-8. But this is Tanks GG. I'll post the link below. So the IS-8 fails to perform as a heavy tank. The armor is just not good enough on it, but it does have strengths. I didn't know about these strengths when I first started playing it, but when I sat down and studied the tank, learned how to play it better, it does have some great strengths. The first strength is its speed. It gets 50 kilometers an hour top speed, very fast for a tier 9 heavy tank. It means that you can keep up with wolf packs. You can actually wolf pack with medium tanks or with other IS-8s. So while it may suffer as a heavy tank, and playing it as a heavy tank on the front line, you can actually play it a little bit more like a medium tank. You've got the top speed of 50 kilometers an hour. In addition to that, it's got very, very good view range. Yeah, it's a tier 9 Russian heavy tank. Russian heavy tanks aren't known for their view range, but the IS-8 gets 400 meters of view range. That's amazing for a heavy tank. So, yeah, you can boost that with crew and equipment, but yeah, it's got great view range and it's got decent mobility, great top speed. And on top of that, the gun is very, very good. I didn't give this gun enough credit when I first started playing the IS-8, but the gun is very, very good. You see, I love the BL9 on the IS-3 at tier 8, and I think the BL9 can still do a job in a tier 10 game. Well, the gun on the IS-8 it's better in every single way to the BL9, and I love the BL9. It's got better accuracy, it's got better aim time, it's got much more TPM, it's got a faster reload, it's got more penetration, it's got 258 millimeters of penetration, it's got more alpha damage, it's got 440 alpha damage compared to 390 on the BL9. The premium ammo is very good, it's heat, 340 millimeters of penetration with 440 alpha damage, and even the HE ammo is quite good, 68 millimeters of penetration, 530 alpha damage. So the gun, as I say, is much, much better on the IS-8 than I was expecting. So while the armor really, really hurts this tank, it's got speed, it's got mobility, it's got a great gun, it's got great view range, so it's practically a medium tank. Now, as I say, it suffers a little bit of an identity crisis, and I think the IS-8 actually suffers more when it's a top tier heavy and is forced to do the heavy role than it is when it's not top tier. And in this game, I'm not top tier. We're tier 9s, it's a very tier 10 game. Lots of nasty, nasty tier 10 tank destroyers on the enemy team. In fact, the enemy team have 3 3 extra tier 10s, and they're all tier 10 tank destroyers. So I wasn't feeling great going into this. 3 tier 9s versus 3 tier 10 tank destroyers according to the matchmaking. But let's just get going. Now, I recently put up an FV215B ace tanker here on Sand River, and I made some mistakes in that, mainly down to the fact the tank was rear-mounted. But I pointed out that, oh, we're not on Sand River, what am I talking about? We're here on El Haluf. But once again, I'm not top tier, unlike the other game, but there's no arty in this game, so while there are lots and lots of nasty tank destroyers in the enemy team, there's no arty. And as a result, I'm going to be taking up exactly the same position I did when I was in the FV215B, but I'm able to use it much more effectively because the IS-8 is forward mounted. It's got a forward mounted turret compared to a rear mounted turret. So as far as gameplay goes, I think this is one of the most solid games I've played in the IS-8. I don't think I made a single mistake in this entire game. I played the tank to its strengths. You can go hull down, you got to keep the hull hidden. It's more of a support tank, and I think the IS-8 benefits from, as I say, when it's not top tier. Because when you are top tier, you're top tier heavy, you're going to be facing against other top tier heavies, and the IS-8 suffers, armor-wise, against other heavy tanks. But when the pressure is relieved and you don't have to play as a top tier heavy, I think the IS-8 is actually quite good. As I say, you've got speed, you've got view range, you've got a great gun. And we're moving up, and as I say, the DPM is surprisingly good on an IS-8. Don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I do remember looking at it and going, ooh, that's quite impressive. So with no arty, this is the position I love to take up, moving down. IS-7, going for below his spaced armor, got quite lucky with that. My tank was bobbing up and down, managed to get one into his cheek. But you can see the penetration side of an IS-7, able to pen it, 451 damage. And I'm keeping my hull hidden. I've only got 5 degrees of gun depression, unfortunately. Was wondering whether to sneak a shot into the E100. Then I notice an IS-7, that same IS-7 is advancing, trying to get across the gap. And we put a shot into his tracks. We track him in place, only do 390 damage that time. That was a very low roll. Oh, he's still coming. Go for a shot below his spaced armor, 484. You see the reload is quite good. The accuracy is good for a Russian heavy gun. The aim time is quite good for a Russian heavy gun. It's got a great gun. Something I didn't realize when I first started playing it. You can take shots like that, just pop out, shoot the machine gun port on T110E4. Now I'm shooting tier 10s, remember I'm a tier 9 in this game, and it's not considered a very good tier 9, but I'm shooting tier 10s. Scores are even, scores 1-1, but we're already up to 1800 damage. Now a Conqueror advances, go for one shot into his side. And with no arty, I can just use this position. I love this position with no arty on the enemy team. As you say, gun depression, not great on the tank. You've only got about 5 degrees, so sometimes you're going to struggle with gun depression. But our team are advancing, and I know I'm a support tank, so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going in as a support tank. Not on the front lines, because my armor just isn't good enough. So I'm pausing, I'm waiting. This E100, he can take the hit, and he's got the armor to take it. So I'm letting him advance. Now Waffentrager E100 moves up, don't know why, but again, aim, take him out, or to get a shot into his machine gun port. No point in taking any damage. Waffentrager E100 got annihilated. Don't know whether it was worth it. And this guy knows I'm here. So, ooh, Waffentrager gets taken out by a 183. I was maybe a little bit lucky. I'm not sure if the 183 had a shot on me, but he decided to go for the Waffentrager. But here we go. We've got the speed. So the E100 did the tanking. I went in, picked up the Waffentrager E100. Look at this reload. Have enough time to reload, pop out again, and finish off the Conqueror. This is just a really, really good gun. And as I say, the tank is maneuverable, it's fast. Now, I would much rather be driving an ST1, because as I say, the IS-8 suffers if it's top tier. But when you get the freedom of not being top tier, I think it's not as bad as people say. So put a shot into where the ammo rack is on the FV215B183. Just waiting to reload. There we go, reloaded, get another shot into his ammo rack. Ram takes him out. And yeah, it's a very, very solid tank. I don't think it's a great tank. I don't think it deserves the hate it gets, though. When you realize it's not a heavy tank, the armor is terrible. There are lots of heavy tanks in the game that have no armor. I mean, you've got the FCM 50T that has no armor. You've got to play it more as a support, and the IS-8 is very, very similar to that. So I think when people are used to playing the IS-3 and the IS-3's armor is okay, can be played like a heavy tank, they get disappointed when they get the IS-8 because it can't really be played as a frontline heavy tank. It's definitely much more of a support. So I rush my shot in the Patton here because the game is over, just 2 tanks left on the enemy team. Jagdpanther's about to be taken out, Patton's about to be taken out, so not going to get the kill. There we go, game is over, but technically I think that was a very, very good demonstration of the gun on an IS-8. It's actually very, very good. Combine that with mobility, speed, and view range, and I think the tank is very, very misunderstood. So yeah, first ace tanker in the IS-8, and I'm enjoying my playing experience a lot more in the tank now that I've actually understood what makes it tick. Don't play it like a heavy tank. It's a support tank. Doesn't have the armor to play it like a heavy tank. It's got great view range, it's got great top speed, the mobility is quite good, and the gun is fantastic. Very, very nice DPM. So just the ace, no other medals. We finished top on XP with 1212, mainly shooting tier 10 tanks, 4,231 damage. Top on damage, just the 2 kills, happy with that. 12 shots fired, 11 hits and 10 penetrations. Yeah, very, very good alpha damage on the gun. Damage 5, destroyed 2, and didn't do very much assistance damage, 748. 53,000 credits made with a premium account on the tier 9 heavy, not too shabby, nice credit making. 1818 XP on the first game of the day, times 2, left me on 3,636. So yeah, IS-8, I think it's very, very misunderstood. I still don't think it's an amazing tank. I think it's a little bit better than I first gave it credit for. I don't think it deserves the hate it gets. I think it needs to be understood that it's a support tank, and it suffers when it's top tier, believe it or not. Not very many tanks suffer as top tier, but I think the IS-8, if it's forced to play a heavy role, it's just not a very good heavy. But if you embrace the fact it's fast, it's maneuverable, got a great gun and great view range, then I think you'll have better games in the IS-8. But anyway, yeah, just getting back to it, the website I'm now using in order to get the armor profiles of tanks is called tanks.gg, and I also want to give a special shout out and another link. My platoon mate CJC is a streamer. He streams a lot more regularly than I do. A lot of you guys have been asking me to stream more, and I'd love to, but I think what a lot of viewers don't understand is I'm an older guy. I just don't have the energy levels I once did. So sometimes I'm feeling great and I stream and I play for like 8 hours or 9 hours. I've done streams that are like 12 hours. Yeah, sometimes I do a big stream and I feel absolutely exhausted for the next day, maybe even a couple of days later. So I don't stream as often as I would like, but CJC streams pretty much every time he plays. He streams a lot. So CJC has his own Twitch channel. I'll put the link up on screen right now. But an average player at Twitch, CJC is another one of these players who's just trying to get better at the game, trying to learn the game. His W&8 is constantly rising, and it's a small stream. So I think one of the reasons a lot of people watch my stream is I'm quite interactive because I don't have very many viewers. I don't have the thousands and thousands of viewers other streamers have. I can talk to you guys. I can answer questions. And that's the only reason I stream, because I'm not partnered, don't make any money from it. And even though I know it's going to leave me exhausted, I still like doing the stream because it lets me interact with you guys. Small streams are great because you can talk to the streamer. They have time to see your messages, answer questions you might have about the game. CJC is one of those guys. So he's been streaming for a long time. He's been playing for a long time. He's been one of my earliest supporters, and I thought I'd give him a shout out. His stream usually doesn't have very many viewers, but if you are looking for a small stream where you can ask questions, then yeah, check out CJC. An average player at twitch.tv. He streams, as I say, pretty much every time time he plays World of Tanks. So if you are waiting for me to do my weekly or my bi-weekly stream, yep, see if CJC is streaming. He might be able to answer any questions you might have for me. But anyhow, guys, that was my first Ace Tanker in the IS-8. I want to thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.